There are some really cool Airbnb updates that don't yet exist, but they could exist with your help. In this video, I want to show you the power of being an Airbnb host on Airbnb and how you can change the world one feedback loop at a time. Let's jump in. Welcome back, Airbnb family. So there are some things that we've realized with COVID-19 and some of the new guests, and of course some of the software problems, that there are some changes that Airbnb needs to make, and they'd be so cool to make them. And so in this video, I want to show you a few ideas, or at least talk to you about a few ideas that if you give feedback at airbnb.com/feedback, and just talk about it, if we all talk about it, we can get some changes made. Because yes, if the community clamors for change, it's much more significant than if one person has an idea. So we're gonna address some of the problems with the resolutions, with like booking formats, all sorts of different stuff. Let me talk to you about a few things that I think you should put in your feedback section, and maybe we can make hosting a little bit easier. Number one, a lot of us have a problem with reviews because we'll do a resolution where we ask a guest for money for a damage, and then that guest rears their ugly head and said, this person tried to charge me for this and they are a bad Airbnb host and 1 star across the board. Not cool, right? Well, if your guest legitimately broke something and you legitimately ask them to replace it, they should not be able to leave a 1-star retaliatory review. So what I think Airbnb should do is put all reviews that are attached to a resolution into stasis, where it doesn't automatically upload. And both persons get like an extra week or extra 3 days to read that review to make sure that that review doesn't have anything retaliatory, like just an extra button. And if it does have something retaliatory, you report it, and it still doesn't get listed or show up until both sides clear that their reviews are well behaved. I think that would be a great extra step, because there's a lot of reservations that aren't perfect. And leaving a bad review because you're unhappy that you're at fault for something, I don't think is cool. And if Airbnb could change this, a lot of hosts, we would avoid 1-star retaliatory reviews from a guest who threw a party or a guest who smoked. And of course, we're trying to get a smoking fee out of them, which is sometimes winnable and sometimes not. But either way, guest breaks your rules and does something that they really should not have done, they shouldn't leave a 1-star review. Let's move on to number 2. Second, Airbnb should add a button that at any time, if a guest is awaiting payment or awaiting verification, that you can cancel that reservation with a click of a button. Because what's happening is Airbnb is letting people book last minute, and if they don't pay or they don't have a government ID, that will give them 24 hours to block your calendar in order to make that payment. But what happens if somebody booked today at 1 p.m. for check-in today? I can't get a reservation because their reservation will block my calendar until 1 p.m. tomorrow. So tonight will go empty and unpaid, because that's how Airbnb works. Now, for last minute reservations, I think this is a really big deal, and they could just do this in the cancel change reservation section of a booking, which if you ever go onto the desktop, you'll see that if you go to send a guest a message, all of their information on the right shows up. Well, with a pending booking, you still have some information. They could just put, a change reservation or cancel pending reservation right there, make it super clean. You could wait if you want, but you can also cancel if you want without having to call Airbnb and do it manually, because they honor it manually. But why not make the step easier and save us all a bunch of time? Number 3, they should make removing the cleaning fee part of the new rule sets stuff that they have in Pro Tools. If you don't know what Pro Tools is, it's an unlockable set of features that hosts have if they have 3 or more properties. And if you have 3 or more properties you want the hack, just go airbnb.com/multi-calendar, and it will force load a multi-calendar and give you Pro Tools. But in Pro Tools, you can change what the multi-day discount is or what the minimum night stay is, but it'd be super cool if they could have a cleaning fee checkbox, and you can actually remove the cleaning fee or remove fees as part of their rule sets change, as part of the dynamic changes, because you could actually choose to not have a cleaning fee, or you can choose to absorb all the fees yourself. And if Airbnb would let you do this last minute, bigger homes would do better, because bigger homes have bigger cleaning fees. And the problem is you can't lower your rate enough to get a booking last minute sometimes with these bigger houses. So the option to remove a cleaning fee for last minute bookings in a rule set would be phenomenal. Number 4, to be able to double nest listings. Now this sounds a little bit weird, but I'll explain. You know how you can on Airbnb say that you've got 4 private rooms and they're all part of a house. If you have a house and you break into private rooms, you can actually sync them together. Well, Airbnb should be able to layer that syncing where you could have 2 private rooms on the first floor, and then you sync those where the whole first floor is a listing. And then you do that to the second or third floor too. And then you sync the floors up and say that they're all part of the whole home. So that way you can rent out the whole home, you can rent out the first floor, or you can rent out the private rooms, and you can be much more modular. I think bigger houses, especially with this whole 16-person max thing that Airbnb has just done, to fight parties, I think this is a really good change that should come. Just a little bit more complex, but Airbnb can do it. They're spending a ton of money on product design or product development anyway. But put the dough down and double nest your listings. 5, Airbnb should gray out arrival times that are not part of an Airbnb's house rules. What we've noticed is guests can check in, they can say, oh, I'm going to arrive at 10 a.m., but our house rules say that you can only arrive 4 p.m. until midnight. But Airbnb, for some reason, lets a guest choose those hours, and it sends it as a request, and it's super hard to see. And if you accept a request, or even if it goes through without it becoming a request and they just instant book it, then a guest might show up at noon trying to check into a dirty place. I don't think that that's cool. So Airbnb should actually gray this out and just say, hey guys, sorry, this is a non-negotiable. Or maybe they can even set it up where you can choose if check-in time is a non-negotiable thing. So if somebody goes to book, the option to gray it out is on you. This would be another way to prevent hosts like us from dealing with all this BS for guests thinking that they can show up at 11 a.m. And then they get super out of line going, I'm supposed to be able to check in at 11. And we show them the house rules, go, no, it's 4. I'm sorry Airbnb made you think otherwise. This is Airbnb's fault. So it would save us the hassle, don't you think? Number 6 is the big boy. This is the big one. Now, I think that Airbnb needs to update how they police their guests. Now, Airbnb has prevented parties by allowing no more than 16 persons, and they're going to be suing guests if they misbehave. But Airbnb's approach to new users, I think, is absolutely trash, in my opinion. Now, here's what I think they should do. Airbnb, instead of just letting a person, create an account and then uploading their photo and their credit card and go and book something for Instant Book, and just preventing them from booking a whole homes if they're under 25, I think what they should do is they should, across the board, use a trust score, regardless of age. Now, you could award somebody a certain number of trust score points as a baseline when they upload their photo, government ID, verify multiple forms of communication, etc., and they win trust points for completing their profile. But then there should be a trust score, kind of like an algorithm that updates that trust score based on the guest's behavior, what they're trying to book. So yeah, sure, if they're under 25 trying to book an entire home last minute in their city, that should red flag. But it should if they're 27 or 30 anyway, don't you think? Now, if a guest gets more bookings, even if they don't get reviewed, or even if they have 1 or 2 negative reviews, what I think this trust score does is it takes a much more grayscale approach where people win points as they get more bookings, as they get some reviews, and total number of days stayed, total number of money paid on Airbnb. And you can gamify this where people start to feel really cool about the fact that they use the Airbnb platform and they're becoming gold or platinum or diamond level members. But these levels become trust levels, and hosts can do wild things with this. So what a host can do with these trust scores is a host can decide that somebody with a trust score of X or lower can book for 4-day minimum stay, where somebody with a high trust score can book a 1-night minimum stay, right? Where somebody with a trust score of X or higher can book last minute, where somebody with a low trust score can't. Somebody with a high trust score can bring a pet. Somebody with a low trust score cannot. Somebody with a high trust score doesn't have to pay a security deposit. Somebody with a low trust score has to pay a security deposit. It's really cool how this could be so much more flexible, and hosts now have the power to do so much more screening without having Airbnb say trust us in a way that just seems ambiguous. So a trust score system, I think, is the best way for both guests and hosts to come together big time. 7, we just talked about it. It's a thing, security deposits. We've always talked about how security deposits aren't really a thing. Now, we all know, because it's across the news, Airbnb lost almost 600 million, sorry. Airbnb almost lost $600 million in 2019. One of the reasons why is because they're paying all sorts of resolutions, insurance like host guarantees, because guests have been trash, way more than normal. Not all guests are trash, but there's been a flood of trashy guests doing bad things, smoking, throwing parties, damages. Now, if Airbnb would only collect an actual security deposit on a credit card or a debit card, then Airbnb can snatch that money and say, we're holding this like we said we would, and you did something wrong, we're keeping it. This would keep Airbnb from hemorrhaging money, and I think it would make it easier for us hosts to feel comfortable about guests, and it would make it easier for us to get paid for some things. Because I really don't like the host guarantee system. I'm sure Airbnb doesn't like paying on it either. Professional hosts, we know how to handle the host guarantee and get paid. We still don't like it. And I'm sure that Airbnb wishes there was less hosts like us who knew their way around, because they'd like to get away with not paying out. I'm sure, because they're hemorrhaging money. So Airbnb, if you're watching this, just start taking a real security deposit. Who cares if it screws up new user adoption? If you guys are losing money enough that you guys go out of business one day, it doesn't matter if your adoption numbers are good or bad, because losing money is losing money. Don't you all agree? If you agree, put it in the comments. And if you have any other ideas that you think we should put in the feedback section on Airbnb, leave it down there too. I would love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching Airbnb Automated, and I'll see you on the other side.